Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and what I have for you today is my review of the Sony BRAVIA 5. This TV is priced at about 1 lakh rupees as of me making this video, and it is the successor to 2023's Sony X90L, which even today is available for about 83,000 rupees. And of course, if you go one scale higher on Sony's TV offerings above the BRAVIA 5, we have the BRAVIA 7, which as of me making this video is priced at about 1.5 lakh rupees. Now Sony is saying that the BRAVIA 5 is the successor to the X90L, which I have reviewed on this channel. You guys can go and check it out. I have also reviewed the BRAVIA 7 on this channel, another TV that you guys can go and check out. So how does the BRAVIA 5 fare? Well, to begin with, it is a mini LED TV, unlike the X90L, which was a full-sized LED TV, so to speak, but both the TVs have dimming zones. Now, the advantage of a mini LED TV is that, of course, it brings more number of dimming zones. It also gets a fairly bright and also gives you OLED-like blacks because the number of dimming zones are high, especially when you compare it to the X90L, which was the predecessor. Of course, when you look at both these TVs, they stand almost toe-to-toe to each other. We will discuss that in the performance section. But if you are looking for the best mini LED performance, then you will have to up your budget to the BRAVIA 7, which is priced at about 1.5 lakh rupees. So let's quickly start talking about this BRAVIA 5 and see how it fares across my different test parameters. Now, to get the obvious out of the way, it's running on the Google TV UI that we've seen across so many TVs from Sony and others that are supporting the Google TV and Android ecosystem. This one is running on Android 12, and the only thing that I really like about the UI of this TV, in addition to the standard Google TV UI stuff, is the Sony specific stuff, where you get this really nice carousel at the bottom for some quick menu shortcuts, which is nice. It's a touch that Sony has had on its TVs for quite some time. Now, when it comes to the picture performance of the BRAVIA 5, it is actually a fantastic mini LED TV, especially when you look at the price point and the features that it is bringing. Yes, the X90L is still a very tempting proposition if you want to spend a lot less than 1 lakh. Let's say you're spending that 80,000 rupees on the X90L and you want to spend another 20,000 rupees on a soundbar, then you are getting a pretty good package. But if you are looking at newer technologies like mini LED TV and want a flagship TV that can give you some stellar performance, then you should definitely consider the BRAVIA 5. In HDR, this TV can look absolutely amazing. Now, I'm going to tell you about a few of the settings that I use on the BRAVIA 5 before actually getting into the picture performance. So if you are consuming any HDR content, I would suggest that you keep the TV in the cinema preset, put the brightness to the absolute maximum, and then there is this HDR tone mapping setting. Now, it has three options: off, gradation preferred, and brightness preferred. Now, I would say that you put this on brightness preferred simply because if you are consuming any content which has dark sequences, those blacks are slightly elevated, not so much that they look gray, but elevated enough that you can make out the details, especially if you're consuming content in a bright room. Also, I would say that the auto local dimming should be at high and the peak brightness should be at high, and you can go into the motion flow settings and put it off. So if you will consume content in HDR, right? For example, I had the PS5 connected to this TV and I was consuming content on the Prime Video app, where you have a show like Fallout, which was in HDR because the PS5 doesn't support Dolby Vision, and you have the protagonist leaving the vault for the first time, and there's this really bright halo of the sun coming in, and you can make out the protagonist standing there with this bright halo of sun all around her, which is a testament to the details that you can see at higher brightness levels when consuming content on this TV. Same thing goes for a movie like the Dark Knight trilogy, for example, which I saw in Dolby Vision as well as in HDR, depending on the devices that I connected externally to this TV. And in HDR, I have seen that in a lot of budget TVs, right? We have the Thomson QD mini LED TV, which I've reviewed on this channel, or the Lumio Vision 7, where you have a lot of black crushing, and in these dark sequences, you can lose some details. But on the BRAVIA 5, those details are maintained and very easily visible, especially when you are consuming content in Dolby Vision or even in HDR, and it is just a very good experience, especially if you have good contrast. And I'm going to talk about that with a very specific app in just a short while. So yes, HDR performance, very, very good. No black crushing, very, very good. Great deep blacks for consuming content in a pitch dark room, as well as in a room like this, which has a lot of natural light. You can make out all the details. Now, I've said this before, and I think that the Sony Pictures Core app is a hidden gem for Sony BRAVIA TVs, because it has a curated collection of films which are associated with Sony, and they give you a fantastic experience. They support IMAX as well as DTS:X audio, and the content consumption experience from the BRAVIA Core app is just like watching a movie in a theater. It is just very good and crystal clear. Now, when you watch a movie using the BRAVIA Core app, if you log in for the first time, you get 10 free credits, so you can actually pick up 10 movies which are paid and add them to your library and watch them whenever you like. And of course, there is a curated library of free movies. You can also rent and purchase movies using the Sony Pictures Core app. Now, you have the Sony Pictures Core mode, and when you switch it on, I'm using this slightly dark sequence from Spider-Man Homecoming to show you guys this, right? So if you put a picture core or the Sony Picture Core mode on, you will notice that the blacks went slightly deeper, if you could, from the footage that I tried to capture, and it gives you a very natural experience. And I would say you leave this mode on if you're going to watch a movie with all the lights turned down, because the blacks look deep and you can make out all the details in any dark sequence without wanting to squint or without feeling that it's not bright enough or you can't make out the details. But if you are going to switch to, let's say, watching content in a room like this which has a lot of natural sunlight coming in, you have a couple of lights on, then I would suggest that you switch the Sony Pictures Core mode off and go back and use the same settings that I described for HDR content, which is put the HDR tone mapping to brightness preferred. You can put the local dimming to high, you can put the peak brightness to high, and switch off the motion flow as well. So it is an absolutely great experience, and I tried to show you the difference in these settings using this dark particular frame from Spider-Man Homecoming, because this is where I could make out the changes as I was changing the settings. If you move to a daylight sequence again in Spider-Man Homecoming, like let's say this Washington Monument sequence that I use, you can see that the primary colors, like the blues, the reds, even the yellows, they just stand out so much and they look so natural and neutral without looking oversaturated. And that's just a testament to Sony's picture processing. I mean, I ended up watching this movie all over again during my time with this TV, just because how immersive the experience is. And that immersive experience translates to SDR content. So if you're going to watch everyday shows, let's say Young Sheldon is there, if you're going to watch your Tata Sky content, if you're going to watch any form of news, then I would say that you can still leave the TV as on the cinema preset and forget about it, because it makes the skin tones look that much more natural. It has a slightly warmer tone to it, which makes the TV feel really good to watch. You can watch content in standard, and that has a slightly cool bias, a slightly blue bias to it. Not something that I prefer. I prefer the warmer tones of the cinema preset. So again, just another personal preference. Moving over to gaming, right? This is another place where I really enjoyed my time with this TV. There are some cons, but I'm going to talk about those right at the end of this video, right? So when it comes to gaming, you actually get this really nice menu at the bottom of the screen, which gives you the game mode that you are on, whether VRR is enabled or not, if you need to have a specific crosshair mode on the TV or not, if you are playing shooter games, so on and so forth. And it's a really nice menu. It also shows you the refresh rate at which the game is currently performing. But that's not the best feature. The best feature when it comes to gaming is your ability to actually resize the entire screen to a smaller size. So let's say if you've put this TV on a tabletop and you want the full 55-inch experience because you're playing a story game like God of War or Ratchet and Clank like I do, or Spider-Man, and you want that larger than life experience, you can play the game in its full 55-inch fidelity. However, if you plan to play a game like Apex Legends or Call of Duty Warzone and you want a more monitor-like experience, you want to reduce the size of the screen to, let's say, about 27-30 inches as per your preferences, and you want to sit up close and have everything in your field of vision, you can scale the size of the display. And I think this is just an absolute great feature if you want a cinematic experience when gaming, when you want to sit back and watch something, or you want to go up close and maybe connect your PC and have a keyboard and mouse experience just like a monitor without having the entire screen of the TV being on. And again, this is where the mini LEDs really come into play, because you can scale it accurately to the exact size that you want. A really cool feature. But I'm going to talk about more gaming in the full screen experience. And yes, we're going to start with Dirt 5, which is a great HGIG game to judge the HDR performance of the TV. And like I said, because this is a Sony TV and the PlayStation is from Sony, they talk to each other the minute you connect your PlayStation. And you don't need to do the HDR brightness setting. That setting is calibrated automatically, and it's done very well because you can make out all the highlights in a game like Dirt 5, and you can also enjoy all the sequences without losing any fidelity. Astrobot is another game which just showcases the fidelity of Sony's commitment to color accuracy. The colors look so nice and natural without looking oversaturated or vibrant. Astrobot is just so much fun on this TV. And the same thing for Gran Turismo, right? Even the blues and yellows and reds in the different cars in this game, or this music rally track that I played, just has such a nice fidelity to it without any loss of detail in the dark, whether you're playing from the cockpit view or from behind. It is an overall immersive experience. And Ratchet and Clank and Spider-Man, again, both have this really nice vibrant color palette to it, especially Spider-Man, where you have the reds and blues in his suit, and when you're swinging across town or if you're gliding across the New York environment, it just looks so vivid. It looks so nice without actually looking oversaturated. I use the word vivid, but it's not. It's actually more natural without looking oversaturated. That's the best way to describe it. And another game, if we move over to the Xbox side of things, is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Like, this is giving you an almost OLED-like experience, because you have Ori right in the middle, who's nice and bright, and you have this environment all around him which has these different colors. You have the reds and the pinks and the blues and the swishes of the weapon that you're using to take down these smaller foes that are there. It is just a game that looks absolutely sublime, and it runs at full 4K at 120 Hz on the Xbox, which is a great experience. Gears 5 is another good example. This sequence that I used to do this demo, you come out of a dark area, you can make out again all the details of the dark area. You don't have any of the OLED problems. For example, my B9 out here shows a bit of black crushing in that sequence, but that is not there on the BRAVIA 5. You can make out all the details and get a nice immersive experience. And Doom: The Dark Ages, yet again another game that not only looks great but sounds great, because the bangs and the thuds of the guns are great. I mean, in a room like this, which is about 10 by 12, you can get a great audio experience from this TV. Yes, the bass is lacking just a little bit, but if you're going to use this TV in the bedroom and still have a console connected to it, you really don't need a soundbar, because you have great channel separation. We will talk about that in the audio section. Oh, actually, we are talking about it. So yeah, so the channel separation is really good, right? I mean, even in a movie like Top Gun Maverick, which is in Dolby Vision, you can make out all the details, and it sounds good because when the planes move from left to right, it just has that absolutely good channel separation that you can make out. And the mixed audio is something that is very good. But before we talk about the details of the mixed audio, why don't you listen to some copyright free music and some of the games. Yeah, so coming back to that mixed audio, right? Top Gun Maverick or even a movie like Ready Player One are great examples where you have the background score, a lot of action happening on screen and some characters talking to each other, and the ability to make out the dialogues and separate the sound in your mind. So you know what the characters are saying. You can make out the background music and all the action happening on screen. I think Sony speakers are really starting to shine on TVs. I mean, if you're going to use this TV in the bedroom, I don't think you will need a soundbar. That's how nice the audio of this TV is. Last but not least, coming to the remote control, it's pretty simple, it's standard. I think the buttons may be too small for some people if you have bigger fingers, but it's recycled material. It has a nice tapering design. It gets the job done well. It has OTT hotkeys for Sony Pictures Core, Netflix, YouTube, Prime Video, Crunchyroll if you're into that, and Sony Live as well. So yeah, and of course you have the source, settings, menu and options button all separately, because you are getting better granular control, especially if you want to bring up that gaming specific menu and take care of some other settings when you are working on this TV. When we talk about the build quality, it's nice. The TV is slightly thick because it has to accommodate all the mini LEDs along with the dimming zones, and it can't be as thin as an OLED because of the technology that's powering it, but it has this nice textured back. The ports are easy to reach, especially if you wall mount the TV, and the feet on this TV sit really close to each other, and you have two height options if you need. Of course, when you buy this TV, you can only choose one option, either a tabletop stand or a wall mount, so choose wisely. My only gripe with this TV is the fact that it still has only two HDMI 2.1 ports, which is port 3 and 4. So 4 HDMI ports, of which only 2 are 2.1 and the other 2 are 2.0. So I mean, in 2025, you should have all 4 ports as HDMI 2.1. That's my only gripe, because if you have a sound bar connected to this TV, then you have only one HDMI 2.1 port for either your Apple TV box or your PlayStation or your Xbox or your gaming PC, which I feel is a bit of a bummer, especially since budget TVs are now offering you more than 2 HDMI 2.1 ports. So if I had to sum up the review, I would say that this TV finds itself in a bit of a predicament, because at a slightly cheaper price point, at about 80,000 rupees, you're getting Sony's 2-year-old TV, which is the predecessor to the BRAVIA 5. And even in 2025, that's still a fantastic TV. And that's not a con, that's just a testament to how great TVs Sony makes. So for about 80,000 rupees, if you are looking at getting a premium or a flagship TV, you can definitely consider the X90L. Like I said, I have reviewed it on this channel. You guys can go and check that out. If you are looking to get the absolute great premium experience, spend about 1.5 lakh rupees on a TV. You don't want to go the OLED route because you want to watch content in a bright room like this, then the Sony BRAVIA 7 is yet another flagship TV that is absolutely a bang for the buck. This TV at 1 lakh of rupees can be considered if you are looking at mini LED as a technology, but I would say that maybe wait for a bit for this TV to go on sale, or if you're getting it at under 1 lakh rupees, then it is definitely a steal deal. You are going to absolutely enjoy all the content on it. And like I said, if you feel anything looks dark, go into the settings, take the brightness, punch it up to the maximum level, take the HDR content and put the gradation preferred to brightness rather than any other settings. And as always, you can let me know your thoughts of this TV in the comment section below. This is me, Samir, signing off from this BRAVIA 5 review. As always, you can subscribe to the channel for more from the world of gaming and home entertainment. I will catch you in another video. It's goodbye for now.